Right now, in a drawer somewhere in your house, there might be an old fountain pen worth more than anything else on that shelf. Not a painting, not a piece of jewelry, a pen. And the reason most people never find out is simple. They assume old means worthless and they move on. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for, and you will know it well enough to check tonight. We are going through 10 old fountain pens that are secretly worth a fortune, starting with the ones that might surprise you, and ending with the one that almost every family in this country has touched at some point. Stay with me through all 10, because the details here are what matter, and I am going to give you something specific to check on each one. Number 10 is a pen that shows up constantly at estate sales and in desk drawers all across the country, and it almost always goes for almost nothing, because people do not know the one thing that changes its value entirely. We are talking about the Esterbrook J series. These pens were made in the 1940s and early 1950s, and at first glance they look like any old plastic pen, nothing special. But here is the thing. The value is not in the barrel. It is in the nib unit. Esterbrook made interchangeable steel nib units, and certain nib numbers, specifically the 948 and the 1555, are considered specialty flex nibs today. If the nib unit is still original, still screws in cleanly, and the number is stamped clearly on the side of that small metal nib section, a complete pen with one of those two nibs can be worth between $40 and $70 in good condition. Without the original nib unit, or with a cracked lever box, it drops to next to nothing. Tonight, unscrew the section at the front of the pen and look at the small metal nib unit. The number is right there. If you see 948 or 1555, set it aside carefully. If you thought that one was surprising, wait for this next one. The Wahl-Eversharp Doric is a pen that was produced primarily in the 1930s, and it has one of the most distinctive shapes in fountain pen history. The barrel is faceted, meaning it has flat geometric panels running along its length, almost like a cut gem. That shape is not an accident, and it is not easy to fake. The Doric came in a range of celluloid colors, but the ones that command real attention from collectors are the cashmere green and the jet black with gold trim. The critical check here is the imprint on the barrel. Genuine Dorics have Wahl-Eversharp and Doric, both clearly stamped, usually near the end of the barrel. Here is your physical test. Run your fingertip along the facets. On a genuine Doric, the edges are sharp and even, a result of the original manufacturing process. Reproductions and later imitations tend to have slightly rounded or uneven facets. A genuine Doric in cashmere green with an intact 14-karat gold nib and both imprints can be worth anywhere from $120 to $200. If your grandparents were the type to keep quality things on their desk, this is the kind of pen they would have owned. Ever wonder why two fountain pens can look almost identical, but one is worth 10 times more? Number 8 is exactly that problem, and it catches people every single time. The Parker Duofold, specifically the first-generation Big Red from the 1920s, looks at first glance like any other old hard rubber pen from that era. But the Big Red was made in a very specific shade of orange-red hard rubber, and that material does something that later versions do not. It fades. Not a flaw, actually a confirmation. Genuine 1920s hard rubber Duofolds that have been kept out of sunlight retain a deep, almost burgundy orange color. Ones that have been left in light fade to a washed-out salmon. The imprint on these pens says Parker Duofold and includes the country of manufacture. For early US-made examples, that imprint is on the barrel near the clip end. The nib on these is stamped 14 karat. Here is the test. Look at the inside of the cap, the part that never sees sunlight. If the color inside the cap is significantly richer and deeper than the outside of the barrel, you have a pen with genuine aging, not a later reproduction. A first-generation Big Red in good condition, with an intact imprint and original nib is worth between $150 and $300, depending on the specific year and condition. These were expensive when they were new, and families held on to them. Number 7 is one I want to take a moment on, because the range here is wide, and I want to be honest about it. The Sheaffer Balance is a pen from the early 1930s, and it was named for the way it actually balanced in the hand, tapered at both ends with a slight swell in the middle. The Balance came in a stunning variety of celluloid colors and patterns, and that is where the value splits dramatically. The common black and white striated celluloid versions are attractive but relatively modest in value, usually between $30 and $80. However, The jade green and the carmine red celluloid variants, and especially a rare pattern called Rose Glow, can reach $300 or more for a complete working example with a white dot on the cap. That white dot is the Sheaffer Lifetime Guarantee symbol, and it is stamped on the cap top. Here is your check. Look at the cap top under a bright direct light. The dot should be white and slightly raised. Then look at the celluloid under that same light. Genuine Sheaffer celluloid from this era has a depth and layering to it, almost like looking into something rather than at something. I am not going to inflate this one. Condition is everything with the balance. A crack anywhere, even a hairline, cuts the value significantly. If it is intact and complete, tell me in the comments, because these are genuinely lovely objects. If you thought that last one had range, number 6 is where the numbers start to climb in a way that makes people do a double take. The Montblanc Number 4, from around 1920 to 1926, is not the most famous Montblanc, but it is one of the most collectible among people who actually study this market. It was made in hard black rubber with a distinctive cone-shaped section, and the nib is stamped with an early Montblanc star logo alongside the nib size number. Here is the two-part check that matters. First, find the Montblanc star, which is the white snowflake symbol on the cap top. On genuine examples from this period, it is inlaid, meaning it sits flush or slightly recessed rather than sitting on top of the surface. Second, look at the barrel imprint. Early examples say Simplo, because Montblanc was still using the Simplo filler pen company name during this period. If you have a black hard rubber pen with a cone section, a Simplo barrel imprint, and a flush inlaid star on the cap, you could be holding something worth $300 to $500, depending on nib size and condition. These were business pens, quality instruments, and they moved through offices and professional households for decades before ending up in drawers. And that brings us right to the middle of our list. If you have been finding any of these useful, a like on this video genuinely helps more people find it, and it costs you nothing. Now, number 5 is a pen that I find genuinely fascinating because it combines mechanical engineering with writing in a way most people never appreciated at the time. The Conklin Crescent filler, produced primarily between 1901 and the early 1920s, has a crescent-shaped metal ring embedded in the barrel. You press that crescent to fill the pen from a bottle of ink using internal pressure, and when the crescent is locked by a metal ring, the pen cannot be accidentally activated in your pocket. This was patented technology, and the Conklin name and sometimes the patent date are stamped directly into that crescent or into the barrel near it. Here is your mechanical test. Locate the crescent and the locking ring. The crescent should rotate or be held in position by a smooth-moving collar. Press the crescent gently with the pen disassembled, then reassemble. If the mechanism moves cleanly and the crescent snaps back into locked position without resistance, the filling mechanism is intact. A complete working Conklin Crescent in good hard rubber condition with clear imprints is worth between $200 and $400. Conklin was a Mark Twain endorsement pen, which is a detail that made it one of the most heavily marketed American pens of its era, and they showed up in homes at every level of society. Number 4 is the one that feels most personal to me, because I have seen these come out of family boxes and go completely unrecognized more times than I can count. The Parker Vacumatic, made from approximately 1933 to 1948, uses a pump-action vacuum filling system and is made from a laminated celluloid that produces a striped, semi-transparent barrel. When you hold it up to a window or a bright light, you can see the ink level inside the barrel because the celluloid is designed to be translucent. That translucency is your first check. Hold the barrel up to a light source. You should see the internal sac area and potentially striped layers within the celluloid itself. The Vacumatic is stamped Parker Vacumatic on the barrel, and the later models include a date code. A small arrow on the barrel clip and a series of dots on the clip band that together indicate the production quarter and year. Look up the Parker date code system, because those two details, the arrow and the dot pattern, together tell you exactly when your pen was made and help confirm it is genuine. Vacumatics in the golden arrow color, a rich amber gold laminated celluloid, are the most sought after. A complete working golden arrow in good condition can be worth between $300 and $500, and they were widely sold across the US for well over a decade, which means they ended up in a lot of family collections. Number 3 is where the market gets serious, And I want to be clear about that because the numbers here are real, but so is the risk of misidentification. The Waterman number 402, or more precisely, any early Waterman with the ideal nib from the first decade of the 1900s, is a pen built on one of the most important patents in fountain pen history. Louis Edson Waterman's 3-channel feed system, which appears on the underside of the early Waterman nibs as 3 parallel lines feeding toward the nib tip, solved the ink flow problem that plagued every fountain pen before it. The nib on these early Watermans is stamped L.E. Waterman Co. and often includes ideal as well as the nib size number. The 3-channel feed is visible if you remove the nib from the section, but do not force it. Here is the safer check. Look at the underside of the nib while it is in place, using a small light or a phone flashlight angled carefully. You can see the feed channels without removing anything. Early Waterman hard rubber pens in good condition with clear imprints and an intact original 3-channel feed nib can range from $300 to over $800 depending on the size, the condition of the hard rubber, and whether any gold trim is intact. At this level, it is worth having it looked at by someone who specializes in vintage pens before you do anything with it. Do not clean it, do not try to fill it, and do not let anyone tell you it is worthless until a second opinion confirms that. Number 2 is the one that will genuinely shock some people who have been holding on to one of these. The Mabie Todd Swan Eternal, specifically the large-size Swan Eternal made in England between approximately 1905 and 1925, is a pen that most people in this country have never heard of, and that is exactly why it sits in drawers unrecognized. Mabie Todd & Company was one of the most prestigious pen manufacturers on either side of the Atlantic in the early 20th century, and their Swan line, particularly the Eternal models, used some of the finest flexible gold nibs ever put into a production pen. The nib on a Swan Eternal is stamped with the Swan mark, which is a small stylized swan alongside the word Eternal and the nib size. These nibs flex from a firm line to a broad expressive line with very little pressure, and that flex quality is what drives the modern collector market for these pens. Here is your check. Look at the nib tines, the 2 prongs at the tip. On a genuine Swan Eternal in undamaged condition, the tines meet perfectly at the tip with no gap and no crossing. Any spreading or crossing at the tip indicates the nib has been sprung, which cuts value sharply. The barrel imprint on these reads Mabie Todd & Co. A complete, unsprung Swan Eternal in a larger size can be worth between $400 and over $1,000, depending on nib condition and barrel integrity. These pens came to America through retailers and importers and ended up in the hands of writers, lawyers, and anyone who took correspondence seriously. And that brings us to number 1. This is the pen that I think surprises people the most, not because it is rare, but because it is so common and so consistently undervalued. The Sheaffer Snorkel, produced from 1952 through 1959, is a pen that you have almost certainly seen. It looks like a classic mid-century American fountain pen, torpedo-shaped, with a small metal tube that extends from the section when you operate the filling mechanism. That tube, the snorkel tube, drops into the ink bottle so the nib never has to touch the ink. It is a genuinely clever piece of mechanical engineering, and Sheaffer was enormously proud of it. Here is why it matters. The Snorkel was made in a wide range of colors and trim levels, and certain configurations have become seriously collectible. The Touchdown and Snorkel versions in burgundy striated celluloid with gold-filled trim, and particularly the Imperial Grade Snorkel with a 14-karat gold nib stamped Sheaffer and the nib size can be worth between $150 and $400 in working condition. Here's your mechanical test. Locate the small metal tube just below the nib. When you turn the filling knob at the end of the barrel, that tube should extend smoothly and retract completely. If it moves freely without sticking and the nib is undamaged, the filling mechanism is intact, which is the single most important factor in snorkel value. A non-working snorkel drops to a fraction of what a working one commands. These pens were sold in department stores and office supply shops all across the country from the early 50s through the end of the decade. They were given as gifts, used daily, and then put in drawers when ballpoints took over. Millions of them exist. Most of them have never been priced right. So there you have it, 10 old fountain pens, from the Esterbrook J series all the way up to the Sheaffer Snorkel, each one with something specific and verifiable that separates a find from furniture. The one thing I hope you take from this is that the detail is always there. The imprint, the nib stamp, The fill mechanism, the celluloid under the light, it is all on the object. You just have to know where to look. If you found something in your drawer tonight that matches any of these, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next video, because we are going deeper into objects that most people walk past every single day. And before you go, tell me in the comments, did you find a fountain pen that belonged to someone in your family? Whose was it, and do you still have it? Take a closer look at what you already own. You might be sitting on more than you think.